Okay, we are now recording. My name's Crystal Marion. I am the executive recruiter. I'm handling this particular recruitment. Our hiring manager is Christina Flynn, and we are here basically to come talk to you about the position, and then entertain any questions you might have regarding the position or the process. So I am going to go ahead and Christina, I was just asking people where they were calling in from, where they were joining us from. I
Great.
think the farthest location is New York.
Oh,
I think it was New
wow.
York. So we have, and then of course we have all the beautiful
Oh,
cities and towns in Oregon. And then there's a couple of folks I think who told me they were visiting where, or they're coming from where my location is, which is Washington State. So,
okay. Awesome. That's
so
great.
Christina is going to go ahead and get started, and that's the next voice you'll hear, Christina.
Yes, thank you so much, Crystal. Again, my name is Christina Flynn. I'm an assistant HR manager supporting I support our stabilization and crisis unit and intellectual developmental disabilities unit, which is just two small departments within the big ODHS. And I have five HR business partners that support those areas and report to me. And then I report to Kim Rockman, who is a senior HR manager, and she supports, I would say, half of ODHS, which is all other programs outside of child welfare, self-sufficiency, um, OEP, and some other departments. So we are the largest agency in the state of Oregon. I think, Crystal, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's like around how many employees? 14,000? I might be saying that
I would
wrong.
say no, we're probably about there, that including temporary staff and
Yes.
limited duration. Yes.
Yeah. So we have a lot of employees and we have really important work in HR supporting our staff doing the work, supporting our Oregonians. So we have a big job, but it's super exciting and a rewarding job. This particular position, I'm super excited to talk about, and then I'm hoping I'll be able to answer your questions. But this is a brand new position to our team. So we have a lot of exciting goals and ideas of how this job will support. So, as the HRA2, this position will support all of the business center, all of the business partners in a support role with the work that they do. So, let me first describe what a senior HR business partner does. They do investigations, workplace investigations. They support the ADA team by processing ADA requests. We handle all questions and processes around union activity. So we make sure that staff are and managers are following the collective bargaining agreement. And we have three different collective bargaining agreements here at ODHS that we need to know about and provide support for. So we respond to grievances. We attend labor management committee meetings. We are provide a lot of training and support to managers regarding how to manage in a union environment. And of course, we're providing support to employees who have tons of questions related to their employment as well. So we do a lot of coachings, we do a lot of trainings, um, lots of consultation, which is, I think, is the most important and super exciting part of the job. We're just constantly talking and making connections and relationships with our managers and employees. But with that said, it's a big job. It's a lot of work, heavy workload. There's never ever a day that there's nothing to do. And it's never a job where I feel like you have a checkoff list and you are able to check off everything off that list in a day. There is always something that is needing to get done. So it is a heavy, heavy workload, which is why this position was created, is to provide that support to those senior HR business partners. So some of the things that we've talked about that would provide this support would be processing conflicts of interest determinations that managers or employees would submit. It would require a lot of review of policy, CBA language, process, procedures, understanding what all of those are. to be able to make a really good determination with anything that is being reviewed. Understanding the jobs, understanding policy. So helping senior HR business partners process conflicts of interest and giving out those determinations when we're submitted. There's a lot of work in what we call, well, not what we call, Workday is our HRIS system. It is our human resources information system. It is our main record of all things when it comes to an employee, including payroll. So this position would need to know how to, oh, did I hear, sorry, did someone have a question? No? Okay, maybe I just heard something. There's a lot of processing in that system, uploading documents, working on records, reviewing records in there to make determinations. So getting familiar with HRIS systems is important. Workday is our main record. So there's going to be, we also use Workday for our investigation tracking. That's one of our systems. We have several. My goal would be that this particular position would help track all the different cases that come through that system and make sure they're assigned to the correct payroll person or the correct HR person if it happens to come into our HR confidential folder, which is intended to be for just senior HR business partners and to track our investigations. But a lot of things go in that inbox, and this position, I would love to be able to move that around and make sure it gets to the right person timely. We also get a lot of transfer, like hardship transfer requests and other technical things within the collective bargaining agreement that our HR business partners would love some assistance with, gathering the information, gathering it all together, making some recommendations, to alleviate some of that work for them so they can focus on investigations and those types of things. The other exciting part of this position is that it will provide a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience in the labor and employment arena. And so if the idea someday is that you are interested in being a senior HR business partner someday, or if you're interested in labor relations work, investigations, workplace investigations, those types of things, it will give you a lot of access to that type of work. You'll be working on alongside senior HR business partners, maybe sitting in on some investigations, sitting in on witness interviews, investigatory interviews, down the line, possibly help drafting some of those questions, gathering evidence and data. So there's so much that this job will have access to, and it will really help you understand if this is the work that you want to do, or if the 2 level is where you want to stay and that administrative type assistance. It has a lot of opportunity for growth too. So that was a lot. I feel like I just put out a lot out there. I'll first stop and ask if anybody had any questions related to anything that I've mentioned so far.
And
Not
no
yet.
question,
Oh,
no question is a stupid, silly question. Yes, Duncan.
Hi there. I previously worked for ODHS and for OHA, and so I'm sorry if I missed this part of the job role, but like for instance, when I was in ODHS, I was in sales efficiency. When I was in OHA, or when I was in OHA, I was in the COVID unit. Is there a specific unit that this position is going to be over?
that is an excellent question. That was going to be my next kind of introduction to say, no, it is not. Because this position, and this is a brand new position, and our goal for this role is to provide support to every single program across ODHS. So, and we have to work out the technical aspect of what that would look like, but all the senior HR business partners across all programs are going to have some sort of need at some point in time for some help. Then those requests would come to me and I would say, okay, today I need you to work on, this conflict of interest, or here's a chunk of conflicts of interest that we are backlogged on. And I love to train you up, review on what we're looking for, how to draft the response memos. Um, Sometimes it involves some investigative work from talking to both the manager and the employee to get an understanding. Um, and so as that work comes in, it could just be for any area at any time. So a broad, vast understanding of the programs will be gained from this position, but also a lot of learning because all programs are very different.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would say keep going, Christina, until we get more questions.
Oh boy. Okay. I would love to say, like on a typical information session, I could say what a typical day would look like, but because this position is so new, I really don't know what a typical day would look like. It's going to be the first part of the position is a lot of training. It's a lot of required training within our system, within our department. Lots of learning, lots of when you first start a first job, I'd say the first few months is just information overload, right? Learning a new department, learning a new agency, process, procedures, policies. Because this position's going to be providing support to so many different programs, it will require a lot of understanding of 3 different collective bargaining agreements, our internal policies, program internal policies, the Department of Administrative Services policies. I mean, it's a lot. And it's not that we would ever expect anyone to know all of that. That would be incredibly impossible, but it would require a lot of understanding of where that information is so you can get to it quickly to help you do your job. So a lot of resources. This position is going to be a huge support to our team, and it's a big team. I think I can't even remember how many HR business partners we have across both sides of the house, but on my team we have 5, there's 6, and I think Glenn's team has even more. So we're looking at like 15, 20 staff across the board looking for some help and assistance.
Christina, can you talk about I know positions remote or hybrid, optional remote. Can you talk about that and what that looks like?
Yeah. Yeah, good question. I would say that this position is pretty much remote if requested. I mean, so we have an option for in person if anybody doesn't like the hybrid or remote option. I would say majority of us, though, do work remote. And then we have some required trainings throughout the year that is like an all HR required training that our director has asked, and that's about once or twice a year. And then our teams as senior HR business partners, we also try to get together quarterly. Those aren't necessarily required in person. We have virtual options. We try to get together in person quarterly if we can. But you have the option of whichever works best for you.
Yes, Rochelle.
Crystal, question in the job posting, it states responding to public records requests. So is that in collaboration with the public records unit within ODHS as well, or is that something separate? And what does that look like in this role? And
Yeah, that's a good question. That is definitely something that we'll see in the future, or we'd like to see in the future for this position. Public records requests, if you all don't know what those entail, are a lot of document gathering, putting together large amounts of documentation, possibly redacting some information. We don't do necessarily, so the public records request does come from that unit. And then they, of course, rely on us to get them that information so they can do what they need to do to respond through that. However, we also have information requests that we get from the union that strictly come to us that would also be part of, it's very similar. It's here's a list of everything we need. We make sure that it's what they're asking for they can have legally or through PECBA. rules as far as from a bargaining perspective. We gather that information and we send it on. But it is very time intensive. So yes, that would be in separate and also in collaboration with them. I hope that answered your question, Rochelle.
It did. Thank you.
Okay, great.
I see there's a hand up, and I do not want to mispronounce your name.
It's Teresa.
Oh, okay.
That's my last name. I don't know why it does it that way. Question, I do see in here that it says that the position is not represented by the union. But my question is, if you already work for a state agency, how do your PERS transfer over? Does that stay the same then, or does it put you into another category for PERS to where your retirement would be coming from two different areas?
That's a great question. And I don't think they come from two different areas. As one employer, I think PERS is just one, right?
PERS is for everybody. Okay, perfect.
Right.
Thank you.
Yep.
There's a question in the chat regarding to working hours. Are there set working hours, like 8 to 5 in person, a different type of schedule?
Yeah, I think I heard the question. It sounded a little garbled. Are we talking about work schedule and what that looks like?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, obviously we work Monday through Friday, and we have a varied amount of programs that have varied amount of needs for coverage. I would say generally the main schedule is 8 to 5, but we're flexible on what that looks like for each program area and also for each employee. So we have lots of flexibility. We have some staff that work 7 to 4. We have some that work 8:30 to 5:30, and some as early, as like 6:33. So it's very flexible. We try to make work-life balance work for everybody, as long as, we can get the work done and provide that coverage to our program managers and program supports.
Okay, I want to make sure that I'm not breaking up. Someone said I was breaking up. Can you hear me okay?
That's better. Yes, thank
Perfect.
you.
I think it's just my mic. Okay. First we have, I believe, Taylor.
Yep, you got it. So I know you had mentioned that there's about 20 HRBPs that we're kind of going to be jumping into support. Just curious kind of what that looks like or what kind of the plan is behind that. Is the plan for them to kind of reach out to us when they need help? Are you kind of filtering through those requests and then providing us with the top priorities? Or I guess I'm just kind of wondering how that's planning to be organized.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. And I would never want 20 people reaching out to you. I think that would be incredibly hard to prioritize. You would never be able to get that type of work done just because
Right.
there's so much. So what we are envisioning is, as the business partners have a need, they would give that to me. I would be able to prioritize based off of those needs, what that would look like. And then I would be communicating and training this position to say, okay, here's your workload. And then we would touch base all of the time. I'm sure I'm going to get more workload than I can give, but we'll just be working through that. And then, of course, I would communicate with the business partners, right? Like, okay, we're kind of at a max load. I can't take on any more, but as you can, then I can start reaching out for more. But I do think we would probably get a huge amount of conflicts of interest between both sides, a huge stack, work through that backlog first, and then kind of go from there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Ryan.
All right, my question is kind of in two parts. You'd mentioned there's 3, I think you said, collective bargaining units. And can you, what unions are they? And then the next part is, how much time is the balance between like labor relations and employee relations?
Yeah.
That you're doing.
So the 3 bargaining units that we have is SEIU, AFSCME, which is Americans Federations, AFS. Oh, I gotta have it in front of me. I'm gonna say it wrong. But it's specific to SACU. It's not AFSCME Central. It is AFSCME specific to SACU. It's a very small contract that's specific to that program. And then we have ONA for the Oregon Nurses Association. And that's a very small contract also. The only nurses that are represented in that is through SACU, as they have some medical homes. So those are the 3 that we have. I don't necessarily, I can fully answer your question related to both, because I don't support the other side as far as like child welfare self-sufficiency. So I don't know the ratio. I would say on the departments that I support, the balance between, labor and employee relations, I think it ebbs and flows. I would say more labor than employee relations, but that can also change at any time. Yeah, it's got a good mix.
Well, thank you for that. And I guess one last question to follow up, as far as union negotiations, would this position, the HR A2, would this position be involved in negotiations when the time comes up for those? No.
Nope, nope. Typically,
Thank
senior HR managers or assistant managers would be a process and would be on the bargaining unit. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Rochelle, and after Rochelle, we'll take, there's 3 questions I'll ask you from the chat.
Okay, great.
Perfect, thank you. Can you just do you have like a tentative idea? I know the job posting closes on the 9th, but as far as the timeline after that, going through the application process, interviews, kind of what does that look like, or what are you hoping for?
Yeah, that is a great question. I think tentatively we have interviews scheduled the last week in June. So our goal would be to get through all of, am I speaking that right?
July
Crystal?
21st, 22nd, and 23rd. And
Oh, yeah.
I will be sending a timeline out to everyone through Workday with a copy of this recording once the recording is complete. So you'll have that timeline. But interviews right now are scheduled for the 21st, 22nd, and 24th. And that's for panel 1.
Great. Thank you. I couldn't do without you, Crystal. Thank you.
You are very welcome. Teamwork, teamwork.
That's right.
So one of the questions from the chat is, what is your policy on working out of state?
Yeah, so that is absolutely ever since COVID, I would say that we have a lot of staff that work out of state. It is always open to be requested of. And most likely, I don't want to give any, absolutes, but I couldn't say that it would not be heavily considered as an opportunity. Mm-hmm.
Next question from the chat. What would the training period look like if working remotely?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've been doing this for a very long time now. I feel like we have done a really good job of adapting to being remote and providing training. So from my side, what I envision would be spending a lot of time up front with one-on-ones, talking about policy, talking about, giving time for all of those big mass trainings that you just have to go through. It's a lot, but we just plow through it. And then we would have at the start probably several check-ins during the week. Our team also has weekly check-ins once a week where we're meeting as just our small unit to talk about what's going on, talk about cases, bring things. We do a lot of collaboration. We don't make decisions on our own. We always are talking about, for consistency purposes, what does this look like? Lots of questions, lots of talk. It's great. We also have, like I said, we have two different teams. So in Kim's team, we have 2 cohorts a week in which we on Mondays and Wednesday mornings. So bigger team coming together. And I do believe Glenn's team may even meet every day for cohorts. So there's always a connection with the team. And then we also have several open chat rooms where anyone can ask questions at any time. So we've got our small team chat, we've got our big team chat where we're just reaching out as we need information, sending out resources. What have you done? Does anyone know about this? I just heard about that. We're in constant communication with each other. So I feel like we've built up a really good support so that when someone does start out remote, they don't feel alone in this weird big job. There's a lot of ways to connect, and it really feels. I know I started this job remote also, and I was scared of like, oh my goodness, I don't have a clue what I'm doing, and I have no one to talk to, and it feels weird to reach out to people and ask questions, and it doesn't. We've just created so much open opportunity to talk all the time that you'll never feel alone if you need help. That's 100% a good feeling. Yeah.
So let's take a question from private participant, and then we'll go back to questions from the chat.
Okay.
private participant.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was trying to unmute. I
No,
apologize about
no
that.
worries.
Crystal, you had mentioned interviews were, you first said 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and then
I'm
you
sorry,
said
it's the
21st.
24th.
So it's the 21st, 22nd, and 24th.
Correct.
And are those remote?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Before I go back to the chat, we'll go ahead and take a question from Meredith.
Hi. What background, skill set, experience do you think would be a good fit for what you're looking to hire in this position?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that what we're looking for is someone who is eager to learn, willing to get out there and see what's out there, because there is a lot out there to know, and not be scared to go around and look for policy and get drenched in the culture. I think analytical skills are really important in this job because there's a lot of questions, concerns, complaints that come our way, and it will take a lot of analytical ability to take what we're hearing, analyze it, compare it against policy, and to make some good recommendations and understandings of how to respond to that. Teamwork especially is going to be crucial in this. And although the HR business partners will not necessarily be reaching out to you all directly to assign the work, it would require working with them on the specifics possibly of a case. So for example, I've got someone on the SACU team that needs help with a conflict of interest, and then I have somebody on child welfare who has a conflict of interest, and they're completely different, not knowing the work at first, not knowing policy, trying to learn all of that. You'll have a lot of people that you'll connect with all the time to gather information. And then also communication, really, really good, clear communication skills, both verbally and in writing. A lot of how we communicate with responses is in writing, a lot of letter writing, a lot of memo writing. That is a part of the employee's personnel file when we respond to conflicts of interest and those types of things. So that is a document that will be in their personnel file forever. And so we just want to make sure that communication is very professional, very clear, understanding. But then, of course, a lot of emails, a lot of Teams meetings. So that type of mindset would be critical in the success of this position.
So another question from the chat. Would this position be solely internal customer service, or is there a call-in line?
No, we do not have a call-in line, so it's entirely internal.
Okay. And then, will training be mentoring, job shadowing, self-guided, or a combination of those methods?
Combination of all. So there's going to be a lot of self-learning when it comes to, review of policies, review of collective bargaining agreements, those types of things. There will be a lot of job shadowing with myself and the HR business partners as you're learning programs, watching the work, sitting in on meetings, seeing how those are handled, listening to answers to those questions so that when you are asked a specific question, you'll start to hear that a lot and you'll be able to answer those on your own. And then we have a lot of direct trainings that are virtual, like in Workday and those types of things. And then in person too, we have a lot of trainings. The Department of Justice are our best friends when we have, tricky or sticky situations that require review. And so we're reaching out to the Department of Justice all the time as well. And they provide trainings to us so that we're on top of making sure we're on top of legal, employment law, any changes that are going on with that. So we're making sure that our guidance is always good and we're not putting the agency at risk in any way.
Okay. The next question I think I can answer really quickly. Someone's asking what the process is for this recruitment, and the position closes on the 9th, and actually next week. I usually like to start reviewing applications, so I'll be doing that process up and through until the end. So on the 10th, I will have an idea as to who will be moving forward. I'll meet with the hiring manager, and then notifications will go out to applicants on the 17th, actually on the 16th in the afternoon, late afternoon. And when you get that notification, it will be saying, congratulations, you are moving forward to interviews. And then it will request for you to select from a set several dates to be able to interview. Panel interviews will be on July the 21st, 22nd, and 24th. Right now, we have them all scheduled for the afternoon, but that may change. Then after the 24th, the panel two interviews, those moving forward, those will be on July the 30th and August the 1st. So hopefully that answers the questions regarding this process. Next question from the chat. What support structures exist? Example, senior HR advisor, subject matter specialist, when I encounter a particularly complex or sensitive employee relations issue.
Yeah, I think that the first line of those is always myself and our team. When we get complex, tricky situations, either you can reach out to me directly and we can talk about it if it's an immediate need. We also have, like I said, our weekly team chat, which is specifically around talking about those cases. How have people handled them in the past? How to be consistent. We want to try to be as consistent as possible so that we can do that in the future. But that's not always the case because all cases are very unique in their information, right? Every situation, every employee question, management need is very unique. So we talk about all of that. And then we also, like I said, we have our weekly check-ins, huddles. So and that's even on a bigger, broader team to even have more collaboration of, hey, this is what we've done in the past. It worked really great, or no, it didn't. Or if it does need to get elevated to DOJ or even higher than me, then that I'll be taking that on from you all and of course keeping you in the loop of everything. But it just kind of, our famous phrase in our department is it depends. Every question we get is it depends, and we just take it one step at a time.
Let's take a question from Ashlyn, and then we will go back to the chat questions after.
Hi there. Thank you for taking my question. You mentioned that this role was new, so you may not be able to answer this, but to the best of your ability, what kind of continuing education does DHS offer to their employees to be successful in this newer role?
Yeah, that is a good question. And I guess it would depend on the continuing education of each employee of what they would need. Because we do have a lot of resources in-house that provides that. We have a lot of resources with the Department of Administrative Services, with DAS. There's SHRP training. There's a lot of, that does give a lot of good HR trainings and experience. There's job development opportunities, there work out of class. And I guess I should explain what those are. So a job development opportunity is, let's say, for example, this position was not a permanent position, but we wanted to give some internal staff the ability to learn it, and they don't meet the qualifications. They could go into a job development opportunity, meaning you're not going to get a stipend or anything. You're just going to be entrenched in the job for a while, learn it, and then you can go back to your permanent position. A work out of class opportunity is when staff do meet the minimum qualifications of a higher classification or a promotional opportunity, and they get to do that for a while, and they get like a 5% or 10%, differential while they're doing the extra work, and then they go back to their classification. That is probably the most beneficial, I would say, because you're in the job doing those types of things, learning it, and then you could be like, yeah, I absolutely love this job. I'm going to apply in the future, or nope, that was terrible. I didn't realize this job was like that, and I'm never going to do that again, right? So it's a good learning opportunity without having to go into it permanently and then finding yourself having to find another job. We also are a part of the Employee Assistance Program, which provides a lot of free training opportunities that you can just jump on and take as many as you want. Some of them do have continuing education credits attached to them. Some of them don't. And then there's also the public law conference that the state puts on, the Department of Justice, that provides a lot of really great legal training. It's every year, and we try our very best to send as many HR business partners to that public law conference. Again, it's keeping up on the legal, what's going on in the law every year because it changes drastically, and we're keeping up to date with all of those things. So that's just a few of those opportunities.
Great, thank you.
Oh.
Okay, next question in the chat is what kind of status/service level agreements do you use to define success in this role?
I don't know if we've really dived into that, but I will say I think for status understanding, if I'm feeling like this is a person is being successful in this role, it would be being able to what feedback I would get on their communication from internal and program. Do they feel like they're being heard? Do they feel like they're being supported? Are they getting the answers that they need timely? Lots of communication with me regarding being able to keep up with the workload, and if there's barriers to let me know, so I can keep everyone updated as to where we're at with projects or those types of things. And an understanding that this is a heavy workload. And so knowing, being successful with not being overwhelmed by the workload or having that freeze you up, but are we getting these things processed timely? There isn't a set quota for this work. Things come up all the time, but being able to say, yeah, like we got in, this is a high number, so don't let me freak you out, but okay, we got 50 conflicts of interest this week, and we processed 40 of them, right? That's good. Is it all of them? Nope. But did we get a big chunk of it done? Absolutely. Progress is happening. So it's not a set quota that we could look at necessarily in this role.
Next question in the chat. Beyond Workday, are there other HR systems or reporting tools, for example, analytics platforms, case management software, that a person would be expected to use or learn in this job?
Yes, we have a lot of reporting that is required of us. So our director's office is obviously very curious about the type of work and what's going on in our departments. How much, are we supporting our programs? And so we've got Workday, and that is huge. That does have one element of tracking as far as our investigation cases. We also have a database that we created and access that tracks not only our investigations, but it tracks any lawsuits, bully complaints, EEOC complaints, tort claims, grievances, like you name it. Most of the majority of work that we do, not all, like conflicts of interest and things like that, are not in there. But so we have a database related to that. And so we track all of that in there. We also have a database that we track all of our ADA cases. So when we receive the request, everything that's been happening to the time when we close that request. So we've got those. We also have it's a share drive that we keep all of our confidential documents in that needs to be maintained so that we can continue, so that it's quick and easy to look through like an investigatory file, especially if we get like a public records request or an information request from the union. Everything is in that one spot, and it takes a lot of organization to keep that up to date. And I'm sure there's plenty others that I don't even know about that we might get involved, but those are the main, I would say, tracking databases that we use.
Okay, next question in the chat. Is there a particular emphasis on analytics or compliance audits in this role?
We actually have a wonderful analytics team that does a lot of that for us, where they're pulling that data, they're providing us with our numbers. We provide those numbers to programs so they can see what's going on in there, high level, right? How many complaints did we get in a month? How many investigations did we close in a month? And much more, much more data. This position, I don't foresee needing to learn how to track any of that or produce any of that. We have a whole other unit, but it would be interesting it would be good for them to have that data when using information to respond maybe to a question or just a basic understanding of the program in general, but wouldn't be required to do anything like that.
Okay, next question in the chat. How do you define success for remote team members, and how is that performance typically tracked or evaluated?
So I don't like using the word tracked per se in a remote setting. I really trust my staff to do the job, and very flexible to make sure that they are doing it in a time frame that is reasonable and within their schedule. Right. So it's not something where someone has to check in with me every day and then check out with me when they leave. We stay in touch with each other in teams a lot. So the expectation would be if you are not available during your normal shift, that you would just let me know. If something needs to happen, we got to, leave for the day, that it's open communication, calendars are updated to if there's appointments or, long lunches that are needed to run an errand or whatever that is. But really it is about just trusting that the work gets done. And if the work is getting done and we are responding to our customers' needs, that's the most important aspect. And we work around anything else around that if we need to.
Part of that question, because I didn't realize it went further, but there were some directly related to like potential raises or promotions. And one of the things I was just going to say is that in regards to pay, we are on, so we get a bump up every year on our anniversary. And then as far as promotions, you want to take that one as far as a person wanting to apply for a promotion?
Yeah. So, and maybe I don't fully understand. So if I give more information than what was asked, I apologize. But in Oregon, we have what's called an Equal Pay Act, meaning when an employee is first hired in with a state, they have a pay equity review from our classification and compensation team to ensure that the employee that is hired in this role is paid equally and equitably compared to other people in that role with the same education and experience. So there's a very specific calculator that is used to determine an employee's pay. So that's upon starting in the role. And then upon moving around with promotions, the same thing would occur. Another pay equity would occur to determine the pay upon a promotion. If there's COLAs given, it is given however that's based on each, legislative approval, what that would look like, how much, when. No guarantees. It's just upon approval, each, budget approval process, biennium is what we call that. So we're going to find out hopefully here soon what that looks like for the upcoming 2 years. But that has not been announced yet. Those are still being discussed. So, so the pay I would just say almost all pay changes outside of COLAs would be based off of a pay equity review.
Next question in the chat. Do you provide financial assistance for SHRM certifications?
That is a wonderful question. I believe the last update I got is for membership. We will reimburse for memberships to SHRM, but not for like taking the test to get certified. Once you're certified, or if you just are a member and you don't have the certification, but if you just want to be a SHRM member, that membership would be reimbursed.
I want to say thank you to Taylor for putting in what COLA stands for. Appreciate that. We do have this thing of using acronyms, so sometimes we forget to say what they are. So thank you, Taylor. That concludes, I think, let me see, is there one more? Oh, okay. There's no more questions right now in the chat. I don't know if anyone else has any additional questions. Okay. So I've already given the information directly related to the process. If there's are any other questions regarding the process, I can take those right now. So after this, it usually takes a day or two for them to complete the update to YouTube. I did send earlier, I sent out the PD um, earlier, but I will send the PD plus this and the timeline to everyone that is applying for the position. If you have not yet applied, but you're thinking about it and you want me to send that information to you as well, please send me an email. My email address is listed at the bottom, towards the bottom of the announcement. And if you have any questions directly related to anything in regards to this process or this position, feel free to email me and I would be more than happy to assist you. I am the recruiter for this position and I am I love working with people. So feel free to just hit me up and I will respond. All right. Well, if that's it for this session, we will conclude. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.